There was a time when buying a certain tool brand meant everything. You saw the logo, and that alone made the decision. It stood for reliability. It felt proven. It felt safe. Those brands built decades of trust, and garages were filled with them. But walk into a tool aisle in 2026 and pay attention. The same names are still there, yet buyers aren't reaching for them the way they used to. That shift didn't happen by accident. Buyers began exploring other options for clear reasons. And many of those once trusted names simply couldn't keep up. In this video, we're counting 8 tool brands no one is buying in 2026, and the real reasons behind that shift. Stay tuned so you don't end up with the wrong brand. 1. Black Plus Decker. There was a time when this brand was the automatic choice for home DIY. If you needed a drill, a jigsaw, or a basic cordless kit, it felt dependable. It was affordable, widely available, and familiar. For many households, it was the first power tool brand they ever owned. That familiarity used to close the sale. But the market changed. Buyers stopped shopping for single tools and started shopping for battery platforms. Instead of asking, "Is this drill good?" they began asking, "What else can this battery run?" That shift exposed a weakness. The ecosystem never felt as deep or as expandable as the stronger cordless platforms dominating shelves today. At the same time, budget competitors improved dramatically. Entry-level brands began offering brushless motors, larger battery options, and better performance at similar or lower price points. Mid-tier brands offered longer warranties and tougher build quality. The value comparison became harder to defend. Another issue was perception. Over time, the brand became associated with light-duty projects, hanging shelves, assembling furniture, occasional repairs. Serious DIYers and professionals began looking elsewhere for heavier use tools. Once that reputation forms, it spreads quickly through word of mouth and online reviews. None of this means the tools suddenly became unusable. The problem is positioning. In a market where buyers are more informed and more ecosystem-focused, good enough is no longer enough. The products are still stocked, the name is still recognizable, but in 2026, far fewer committed buyers are building their primary tool setup around this brand. 2. Craftsman. If you saw that logo across a tool chest, socket set, or wrench roll, it meant durability, it meant tradition, it meant the tools were going to outlast the job. For many households, it was the standard, not just another option. That reputation was built over decades. Heavy steel hand tools, lifetime replacement promises, a sense that you were buying something solid and established. For a long time, that trust carried real influence, but markets don't stand still. Ownership changes shifted manufacturing strategies. Product lines expanded quickly. Some releases impressed buyers, others felt average. Over time, consistency became a question. When buyers can no longer predict quality across a lineup, hesitation creeps in. At the same time, competition tightened from both directions. Retail-exclusive brands improved their hand tool quality while keeping prices aggressive. Premium brands doubled down on performance, materials, and professional credibility. That left this brand squeezed in the middle, no longer clearly the value leader, and not fully positioned as a top-tier professional choice either. Another quiet change happened with perception. Older buyers still associate the name with heritage. Younger buyers don't carry that same emotional attachment. They evaluate specs, warranty terms, ecosystem compatibility, and online feedback. Nostalgia doesn't influence them the same way. So the brand still exists. It still has shelf presence. It still carries recognition. But recognition alone doesn't guarantee momentum. In 2026, more buyers are asking tougher questions before committing. And when those comparisons happen side by side, this once dominant garage staple doesn't automatically win the way it once did. And that pattern, strong legacy, slower adaptation, isn't isolated to just one brand. Let's look at another name that built its identity on history, but struggled to stay ahead. 3. Skil. For decades, Skil was closely associated with one of the most important tools in any workshop, the circular saw. In fact, in many households, people casually referred to any circular saw by that name. That level of brand association doesn't happen by accident. It comes from years of visibility, consistency, and dominance in a specific category. The company built its reputation on strong, corded tools, reliable motors, straightforward design, tools that felt practical and durable rather than flashy. For builders and serious DIYers in earlier decades, a corded circular saw from this brand felt like a dependable investment. But the market changed faster than the brand adapted. As cordless technology matured, the buying conversation shifted completely. The focus moved away from one excellent standalone tool and toward full battery ecosystems. Buyers began asking different questions. How many tools share this battery? What upgrade path exists? How does this platform compare in runtime and power? Can I expand without switching brands? While Skil did enter the cordless space, competitors had already secured strong positions. Other brands invested heavily in expanding tool lines, marketing their battery compatibility, and building long-term ecosystems that made switching expensive. When buyers stood in the aisle comparing depth of lineup and platform maturity, Skil often appeared narrower. Another challenge was brand perception. Older buyers remember the corded legacy. Younger buyers often associate the name with entry-level pricing, rather than professional-grade advancement. That shift in perception matters. In today's market, image and ecosystem strength influence decisions just as much as individual tool performance. There is also the visibility factor. In retail environments, shelf space signals momentum. Brands with aggressive releases, strong promotional bundles, and frequent new launches dominate attention. When a brand's innovation pace appears slower, it gradually fades from the front of the conversation. None of this means Skil disappeared. It still produces tools. It still carries recognition. But recognition tied primarily to corded history does not guarantee dominance in a battery-driven market. In 2026, fewer buyers are committing to Skil as their long-term cordless platform. The tools may still work. The history still exists. But ecosystem strength, innovation speed, and perceived upgrade value now drive decisions. And that is where the brand has struggled to stay ahead. And when a company that once defined a category loses momentum in the ecosystem era, it shows how unforgiving this industry has become. Next, we look at a brand that once had serious contractor credibility, but slowly drifted out of the main competitive spotlight. 4. Porter Cable. Porter Cable once occupied a very specific and respected space in the tool market. It was not positioned as the cheapest option on the shelf. It was not marketed as the ultra-premium professional badge either. It sat comfortably in that middle ground where serious DIYers and working tradespeople could buy in without feeling like they were compromising. The brand built credibility through routers, sanders, compressors, and other workshop staples. For a long time, if you saw Porter Cable in someone's shop, it suggested practical decision-making. It was the kind of brand you bought when you wanted reliability, without overspending for prestige. That positioning worked for years, but the market structure changed. Large parent companies began reorganizing their tool portfolios. Investment and innovation began concentrating on certain flagship brands. As that happened, Porter Cable's pace of new releases slowed compared to faster-moving competitors in the same corporate family. And in a battery-driven era, pace is everything. Cordless ecosystems became the deciding factor for long-term loyalty. Buyers stopped asking whether one drill was good. They began asking how many tools the battery could support. They evaluated expansion potential. They wanted brushless upgrades, higher capacity battery options, rapid chargers, and continuous refresh cycles. In that environment, Porter Cable's cordless platform struggled to stand out. While other brands aggressively expanded their 18-volt and 20-volt systems, adding dozens of compatible tools each year, Porter Cable's ecosystem felt limited. The lineup did not evolve at the same visible speed. When buyers compared tool variety and upgrade potential, the difference became noticeable. Retail placement also shifted. Tool aisles reflect sales momentum. Brands that move quickly often receive larger displays, more bundled kits, and stronger promotional visibility. Over time, Porter Cable's shelf presence began to feel quieter. Fewer headline releases, fewer attention-grabbing bundles, less dominant positioning. Professional perception followed. Contractors tend to migrate toward brands that demonstrate continuous innovation and ecosystem growth. When professionals begin standardizing on other battery platforms for efficiency and compatibility, that sends a signal. Serious DIY buyers often mirror those choices, especially when they plan to expand their collection. Another factor is identity clarity. In today's tool market, each major brand tends to communicate a clear role: budget-friendly and accessible, professional and performance-focused, premium and innovation-driven. Porter Cable's position became less defined. It no longer clearly owned a category. It no longer clearly led in price. That middle ground positioning, once a strength, became harder to defend. None of this means the tools stopped working. The products still function. The brand still carries history. But in 2026, buyers building a long-term cordless ecosystem often look elsewhere first. When expansion potential, innovation speed, and battery compatibility dominate decision-making, a slower-moving platform struggles to maintain traction. And when a brand that once had contractor credibility begins fading from job site conversations, that shift rarely stays contained. Next, we look at a brand that relied heavily on niche positioning and aggressive marketing, but found it difficult to become a primary ecosystem choice for serious buyers. 5. Worx. Worx entered the market with a completely different strategy from most traditional tool brands. Instead of building its identity around heavy-duty contractor endorsement, it focused on clever engineering, compact design, and aggressive consumer marketing. Lightweight lawn tools, convertible systems, multi-use attachments, products that looked modern and felt convenient. For many homeowners, that was appealing. The messaging was simple. You do not need industrial-grade equipment. You need something practical, something easy to store, something that solves everyday tasks without overwhelming you. And for a while, that positioning gained strong traction. But as the cordless era matured, buyer psychology shifted. The question stopped being, is this tool clever, and became, is this platform expandable? Buyers began thinking long-term. They wanted one battery system that could power drills, impact drivers, saws, yard tools, and specialty equipment. They wanted depth. They wanted upgrade potential. They wanted assurance that the brand would still be innovating 5 years from now. This is where Worx faced friction. While the brand built a cordless ecosystem, it never scaled to the same breadth as larger competitors. When shoppers compare platform depth in-store, tool count, battery variations, heavy-duty options, visual dominance matters. Wider ecosystems subconsciously signal security. Worx often appeared strong in specific niches, especially garden tools. But that specialization also limited perception. Many buyers see it as a secondary brand, great for certain outdoor tasks, but not the foundation of a full workshop. There's also the marketing versus performance tension. Brands that lean heavily on lifestyle positioning must eventually prove durability under demanding use. As competitors pushed professional endorsements and expanded brushless lineups, some serious DIYers began questioning long-term robustness. Another factor is buyer confidence in scale. When you invest in a battery system, you are not just buying one product, you are committing to future compatibility. Larger ecosystems feel safer. Smaller ones feel like calculated risk. Worx still produces tools. It still serves a segment of the market effectively. It did not disappear. But in 2026, fewer buyers are choosing it as their primary, long-term tool platform. It remains relevant in niches, yet struggles to dominate as a full-system ecosystem. If this breakdown is helping you see what is really happening behind the logos in the aisle, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. We track which brands are gaining real momentum and which ones are quietly losing ground before most buyers notice. Because the next brand shows a different kind of struggle, not limited ecosystem depth, but brand identity confusion during a major transition. 6. Hitachi/Metabo HPT. Few things weaken a brand faster than uncertainty. For years, Hitachi was a recognizable and respected name in power tools. Contractors trusted it for nailers. DIYers relied on it for drills and saws. The greenhousing was instantly identifiable, and the brand carved out a steady reputation in the mid to professional tier. It was not always the loudest name in the aisle, but it carried quiet credibility. That credibility took time to build. Consistency, performance, and job site presence made the brand familiar. When buyers saw the logo, they associated it with durability and professional-grade capability. It was a practical choice that did not feel experimental. Then the transition happened. The power tool division was sold, and the name shifted to Metabo HPT in several regions. Corporate restructurings are common in the industry, but branding changes are sensitive. Buyers do not track ownership shifts or corporate acquisitions closely. They respond to clarity and continuity. When the name changes, hesitation enters the conversation. Is this the same quality? Is the support network intact? Are warranties still honored the same way? Is this just a cosmetic rebrand or a deeper shift in manufacturing standards? Even when the answers are positive, the uncertainty alone can reduce buyer confidence. At the same time, the cordless ecosystem race intensified. Competitors were expanding battery platforms aggressively, new brushless releases, higher capacity battery options, rapid charger upgrades, expanded specialty tool lines. Momentum became visible and measurable. Buyers standing in-store could see which platforms were growing rapidly. During that same period, this brand was navigating identity realignment. Another layer of confusion complicated the picture. Metabo already existed as a separate German-engineered brand, positioned at a more premium industrial level. The introduction of Metabo HPT created overlapping brand language. For an informed buyer, the distinction can be explained. For the average consumer, the naming structure can feel unclear. Brand clarity matters. In the modern tool market, buyers often anchor themselves to one ecosystem. They want reassurance that their battery system will remain supported, expanded, and competitive for years. Any hint of instability, even perception-based, weakens that long-term commitment. Retail placement reflects this momentum dynamic. When a brand projects clear growth, it typically gains stronger promotional displays, bundled kit visibility, and marketing emphasis. When identity appears transitional, visual dominance can shrink. Subtle shifts in presentation influence purchasing psychology more than most realize. It is important to note that the tools themselves did not suddenly become ineffective. In many categories, performance remained competitive. Nailers, in particular, continued to receive professional attention. The challenge was not necessarily engineering. It was momentum and messaging. In 2026, the name still exists. The product line still competes. But in a market driven by ecosystem loyalty and aggressive innovation cycles, any period of confusion can slow traction significantly. And when traction slows while competitors accelerate, regaining lost ground becomes increasingly difficult. Next, we examine a brand that still commands strong retail presence and even loyalty in certain trades, yet faces mounting questions about whether its cordless ecosystem can truly compete at the highest level. 7. Rigid. Rigid built its name on toughness long before cordless ecosystems became the main battleground. For decades, the brand was almost inseparable from plumbing. Heavy pipe wrenches, threading equipment, tools built for harsh environments where failure was not an option. In trade circles, that reputation carried weight. When you saw the name stamped onto cast iron or industrial-grade steel, it signaled durability and seriousness. That credibility opened the door into power tools. As cordless systems expanded, Rigid positioned itself as a durable alternative with a compelling promise: long-term service support. The lifetime service agreement became a strong talking point. For many buyers, that sounded like insurance against future cost. It suggested confidence. It implied the brand stood behind its products. For a while, that strategy worked well. Serious DIYers who wanted something sturdier than entry-level options, but not necessarily priced at the top tier, saw value in the combination of durability and service coverage. But the tool market evolved quickly. Cordless ecosystems became more complex and more competitive. Buyers began comparing brushless performance under load, battery output ratings, rapid charger speeds, thermal management, and lineup depth. They wanted to know how many compatible tools existed now, and how many would exist in the future. Warranty strength alone was no longer the deciding factor. Another layer of pressure came from innovation speed. Competing brands began releasing updated motors, compact high-output batteries, smart electronics integration, and expanded specialty tool lines at a rapid pace. Product refresh cycles became shorter. Marketing campaigns emphasized performance leadership and professional endorsement. In that environment, momentum perception matters. Rigid's lineup remains competitive in several categories, but it does not dominate the conversation. When buyers walk into a store and compare ecosystems visually, they see which platforms appear to be expanding aggressively and which feel more measured. Brand identity also plays a role. Rigid's strongest heritage is still closely tied to plumbing. That trade association is powerful within that segment. However, in the broader cordless market, Buyers often look for brands positioned as full-spectrum workshop ecosystems. Some consumers still view Rigid as a trade specialist brand, rather than a dominant general power tool platform. Retail presence reinforces that psychology. End caps, promotional kits, and bundle visibility shape buyer perception subconsciously. When competing brands receive larger displays, deeper promotional stacks, and more aggressive marketing language, they appear more dominant. Visual scale translates into perceived market leadership. It is important to be balanced here. Rigid tools continue to function well. Many users remain satisfied. The lifetime service agreement still appeals to cost-conscious buyers seeking long-term reassurance. The question in 2026 is not about basic functionality. It is about ecosystem momentum, innovation pace, and platform confidence. When buyers commit to a battery system, they are investing in future compatibility. They want to feel certain that the platform will remain competitive and continue expanding. In a market where aggressive innovation and brand dominance drive long-term loyalty, standing still, even slightly, can look like falling behind. And that brings us to a different kind of challenge altogether. A brand that once completely dominated a specific category, yet struggled to broaden its identity beyond that narrow lane. 8. Dremel. Dremel did something very few brands managed to do. It became the name of the category. For years, if someone needed a small rotary tool for cutting tile, trimming metal, engraving glass, or sanding tight corners, they did not ask for a rotary tool. They asked for a Dremel. That kind of brand association builds enormous recognition and long-term stability. The company leaned into that identity. Precision, control, compact design, detailed work. It built a strong presence among hobbyists, crafters, model builders, and light DIY users. For specialty applications, the tools were practical and effective. The accessory lineup was wide. The brand felt focused and refined within its niche. The challenge is scale. While Dremel owned the rotary category, it never positioned itself as a full workshop ecosystem. Buyers could purchase a rotary tool and dozens of accessories, but they could not build an entire cordless setup around the brand. There was no deep expansion into drills, impact drivers, saws, grinders, or heavy-duty applications. And in the cordless era, ecosystems drive loyalty. When battery systems became central to tool buying decisions, most buyers wanted compatibility across multiple categories. They wanted one platform powering everything. Adding a separate battery system for a specialty tool became less attractive, especially when larger ecosystems began offering compact rotary-style attachments within their own platforms. That integration weakened Dremel's exclusivity. Another factor is usage frequency. Rotary tools are not daily drivers for most people. Many buyers purchase one and use it occasionally. That limits repeat purchases and upgrade urgency. In a market where brands compete on continuous innovation cycles, slower upgrade demand reduces visibility and excitement. Perception also shifted. While Dremel remains respected for precision tasks, it is rarely viewed as a core workshop foundation. It is seen as an add-on, a complement, something you buy after you already own your primary ecosystem. In 2026, that positioning matters. Being dominant in a narrow category does not guarantee growth in a platform-driven market. Buyers want scalability. They want long-term expansion potential. They want reassurance that their chosen system will continue evolving. Dremel still carries strong recognition. It still performs well in its lane, but it operates within a limited ecosystem model in an industry increasingly dominated by broad battery platforms. And that common thread runs through many of the brands we have covered. History, recognition, and niche strength are no longer enough on their own. The real shift is not about one brand failing. It is about how buyer priorities have changed, the real pattern behind all 8. When you step back and look at these brands together, a clear pattern appears. None of them suddenly forgot how to make tools. None of them collapsed overnight. The shift happened because the rules changed. Tool buying in 2026 is no longer about a single good product. It is about ecosystems. It is about battery compatibility. It is about upgrade paths. It is about long-term platform security. In the past, you could build a reputation on one flagship tool. A circular saw, a rotary tool, a reliable drill line. That was enough. Today, that is not enough. Buyers now evaluate how many tools share the battery. They compare brushless performance. They examine charger speeds. They look at lineup depth. They read reviews. They watch side-by-side tests. Loyalty has become conditional. Another major shift is competition pressure. Budget brands improved dramatically. Premium brands accelerated innovation. Retail-exclusive brands built aggressive ecosystems. That squeezed legacy names from both directions. If a brand does not lead in price, performance, or ecosystem depth, it gets stuck in the middle. And the middle is dangerous. Brand recognition alone no longer guarantees momentum. Shelf presence alone does not equal demand. Emotional attachment does not override feature comparisons. The market became more analytical. So what does this mean for you? It means do not buy a logo out of habit. Do not assume a name that was strong 10 years ago automatically leads today. Look at ecosystem size. Look at innovation pace. Look at long-term compatibility. Ask whether the platform feels like it is expanding or standing still. Because in this market, standing still often looks like falling behind. Kindly like and subscribe to this channel. We track brand momentum shifts before they become obvious, so you can make smarter decisions before committing to the wrong platform.